Hey guys, welcome aboard. I want to talk to you today about alt season. When does it really blast off? How far might it go and stuff like that? And talk about Bitcoin a little bit. Also, though, I want to start off talking about when people show you fancy charts that look so impressive, and they tell you that this means we're at the beginning of alt season, really taking off, really blowing up. So here's such a chart right here where it shows that arrow pointing to the Bitcoin dominance dropping below its line and them getting all super excited about that. Well, I'm going to take you through a really realistic chart that shows you what really happens at a point like this when Bitcoin dominance drops like this, so that you can get an idea of where we might be at as of today on alt season and altcoins. And what might be happening right about now? Might there be a topping formation or a temporary topping formation about to go sideways, going to happen right about now here around December 5th? So we're going to look at that. But I just wanted to tell you that some of these people throw these big fancy charts up here that look so pretty, and they get you so excited to think everything's about to go crazy. And I just want to send some reality your direction about maybe things aren't as exciting as you might think, unfortunately. Got to face reality if we're going to make money and not lose money, right? So just be careful of these fancy looking charts. Here's another fancy chart somebody shared that I'm so unimpressed with. And it just really disappoints me when people put out, to me, crap like this, because it's just going to get you to throw more money at a market that may not be a good time to throw money at. The reason why I don't like this chart at all is because it's nonsense. This chart is based on a 3-week chart. Every candle here is a 3-week. Look, the truth of the matter is that if you got to go find a 3-week chart to find this diagram, this golden cross that you think is a golden cross, but you have to find it on a 3-week chart. Nobody uses a 3-week chart, okay? So what it means by a person finding a 3-week chart and this kind of special crossing golden, whatever they think it is, it just means they created an indicator to back up what they believe is already going to happen. So when you see things like that, like, investigate what it is. Actually look into it and find out, what is it? Is it a monthly? Is it a weekly chart? Is it a daily chart? Because monthly and weekly charts and daily charts, people use those. So indicators on those type of charts would make sense. But a 3-week chart means that somebody just kept looking at different time frames to find something that supported their what their view of things are. And doing that hurts people because it shows is something that people are thinking, oh, this is some great cross happening. It really means that it verifies that we're in alt season and all this stuff. And just take a close look at these kind of charts, because it's just nonsense, this kind of a chart here. So right here is actually something I'm going to be talking to you about. I created this one based off of, here's another chart that's, this is just talking about the Bitcoin dominance dropping and stuff like that. I already told you I'm going to talk about that, right? So here's another thing created. Now, you saw my chart a minute ago. Now, this chart, the way they did this, so the cup and handle situation here, it all looks really neat and pretty, like things are always going to tell us exactly what's going on when we draw our cups and look for the cup and handles and stuff like that. But I'm going to show you a closer up view so you can see that, it's not always so pretty and easy to see these types of things right here. Oh yeah, so this right here is kind of interesting because, this is about WIF, W-I-F. So I'm just going to leave that up there, share that with you. This guy named Blunts, you can see on Twitter, he's the one that shared this, but he shares a lot of really cool stuff that represents why he and many people think that WIF, or dog with hat, WIF, is possibly about to take off. And I just thought that his different diagrams here are very interesting to look at as a reason to consider that WIF might be interesting. Let's go look at the actual chart of a couple of things that I'm kind of interested in a bit, but I may not jump into based on stuff I'm about to talk to you about. But here's WIF. So WIF, you basically got some shenanigans going on here. Up and down, we got a little channel created right here. And so it kind of went up, went down. So like right now, you have CRV, which is something I've been kind of interested in. You have it just blasted up now. But WIF looks like it went up here. And now what people are getting excited about now is this may be one that may be ready to get into. And it may even drop down to, even a lower point, maybe 2.9 or something like that. Maybe or maybe not. Who knows? Or maybe you could just try to get in at about 3 if you're thinking that this is going to keep going up. But there's no guarantees about this thing. The other thing I was interested in is CRV. The good thing about CRV is when we look at the long-term chart, CRV is an ultra-depressed coin because partly because of one of the main owners, this Michael, whatever his name is here, after some kind of a hack occurred, then this Michael guy also went ahead and sold millions of his CRV to buy a giant mansion. And so what happened was that caused the price to go down further. And I always talk to you guys about manipulation, right? And what happens when fear is created in a market and things are drop down because of fear? A lot of times the manipulators will come in and take it down one step further because they're helped by your fear to take it down one step further. And I believe that's what occurred here to bring it down to this extra low, which actually doubled down as an extra low here. And so curve blasting up to here could look like a giant move, but there's some really smart people. One of my favorite guys, Credible Crypto, on Twitter, he thinks this thing's just going to go nuts. But, he also thinks that all the alts are going to really have or a lot of the alts are going to have a real run, which I'm going to show you some concerns about myself. But to me, if something was going to have a better run, then maybe it would be CRV because it was ultra depressed. And so now it's reaching a point where which might have been its kind of bottoming formation that was getting ready to move up higher. So it could be interesting. If I was to make a guess at what CRV might do is I think that right here it's kind of really blasted off a bit too much, especially when we look at the entire alt chart. When we look at the entire alt chart, it looks like it might be time for a rest. The entire all the alts have kind of blasted off really well like this one. Looks like it could be time for maybe some sideways action, right? If there's a topping formation coming, if we're reaching the top in alt season, which sounds ridiculous for me to say, for most of you hearing me say that, but I'm going to show you some interesting things. Or it could, but it could have a really good drop, maybe down to, who knows, maybe 0.72, and then start bouncing, working its way up, and then maybe into a new upward trajectory. That could be a possibility. So now let's talk about what I really want to talk about here is alt season. So I want to get into, you saw on that fancy chart up there, this kind of cup and handle situation. I kind of wanted to show it to you a little more close up because I want to show you that no indicators are going to give you a definitive answer about anything. Indicators aren't going to give you definitive answers, my friends. Indicators are often going to trick you because here's what happens more than indicators working is manipulation works. The manipulators, the ultra manipulators who manipulate the markets, they're going to use indicators to mess with your head. And this is almost always going to be true. So never think that because an indicator looks like it's going to do some fancy pants thing that it's actually going to do it. Let's look at an example here. So first of all, if we're going to draw an indicator, we have to always do it the same way, because we can't just draw a top where it looks like it's going to give us what we want. We can't do that, right? So if we're going to have an indicator drawn on the bottom of this bounce here, right, on the bottom of this and the bottom of this, if we're going to draw that on here and then pull that down and call that a bowl, then we have to do the same thing up here. So on mine, that's what I did. I'm doing the same thing. We're not going to make it all fancy pants where it fits our scenario. We're going to make it look real. And when we make things look real by comparing apples to apples instead of apples to oranges, well, then we get into some weird stuff, right? So we start a bowl here. It comes down here, goes below the bowl, bounces way up. And some people might look at that bounce up there. Actually, let's get a little closer to that so we can get a good look at that, right? This is a daily chart. Some people might look at this bounce up here, and they might have drawn a bowl that went like this. And then they might have said, well, this is a little handle coming out, coming down. And right around this moment right here, they could have said, and now we're going to get ready to blast off because it's out of the cup, right? So I'm saying these things aren't easy, okay? When you draw things correctly, things aren't easy. And let's look at what happened on the right side when it finally did. Okay, we bounced up to the top of the thing again. We bounced down. We came here. And then happy, happy, joy, joy. We came up and we created this thing here. Now, this didn't come back down to the line. A lot of times, this cup with handle, you expect the handle to come back down to the line. So maybe people are putting their buys in right here to buy in, but guess what? Never came down to that, right? So, even these things can be tricky. So just that's why I'm saying don't trust those big fancy charts people put out. Look closer so you can understand how things are actually working. The fact that it never did come down could actually make you feel like it's a very bullish thing. And it turned out that it was a very bullish thing that it didn't come down easily, right? But a lot of times the way manipulation works is they'll have a bull do one thing one time, and then it'll do a completely opposite thing another time. So on this one, when we draw it the same, it comes down, it makes the nice bullish design, really beautiful bullish design, comes out, puts a handle right here, and people think, okay, so a handle right here, it went up, came down and touched the top. Sorry, let's get a better look at it. Right, there we go. So we see came up perfect. They expect to come down to the bottom, perfect. Now we're going to buy in when it comes down to this bottom, perfect. It did. Now it's going to start taking off, going to head off into the stratosphere. What did the manipulators do? They said, we know you bought down here. You think it's going to start going up here. We're going to drop it even lower and then lower, right? Until you sell what you bought here, right? So all these indicators are you using, manipulators are going to try to get you back out of your purchase, right? And that's what happened here, right? So this stuff is tricky. These fancy bowls and stuff, they don't really make anything easy because manipulation is always going to occur. And that's what happened here. You bought in here, you tried to hold here, but then when it got to here, 99% of you sold. And then it started moving into the real bull, right? So just something I want to show you there. Now, let's forget about the bulls for a minute. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about that fancy schmancy, right? That fancy schmancy chart. Let's blow this up. This right down here is Bitcoin dominance. Let's blow that up. So as you saw on one of those fancy charts, you saw that we are now dropping below this support zone. And people are getting all excited that we're dropping below the support zone. Let's take a look at that. So we drop below and we're 1, 2, 3, 4. Now on a fifth day below into Bitcoin dominance. becoming not Bitcoin dominance, which means alt season people are excited about. So what did I do to help us to really get a grasp on what this means? Oh, and by the way, way back here, the line was different. This, these support lines, people draw a support line and, and they're all excited about the support line, but then they end up having to draw, like they would have had to draw eventually this support line, right? I should have drawn that too, but I didn't. And then eventually they drew this support line. So it's like, where even is the real support lines, guys, is what I'm saying. Like, things aren't always, they're just not going to be easy. You follow me? But what I did here is I want to show you the real deal, right? Instead of all this fancy talk about alt season's crazy now. We just started. We're at the beginning. It's going to go crazy. So here's what I did. I drew these blue lines on the 5th day after we crossed below one of these support lines. That's what I did. And that's what I want to show you. I want to talk about this, right? I want us to go back and see what really happens on the 5th day after something drops below the support lines. Here we are looking at alt season, or this alt season's already kind of taken off. We see a really nice blast off here, and I have this blue line going to here. And so what does this mean? Does this mean now we just go completely crazy, completely nuts? And by the way, look at how this looks similar to curve, CRV. CRV blasted up along with this entire alt chart. This is the total 3 alt chart, which is all altcoins except for Bitcoin and Ethereum. Okay, so we want to ask ourselves, well, what happens on the 5th day after we drop below? And we need to also look at this dichotomy, right? That we did a long line downward as there was a long move upward on alts, right? That's important too, to see that dichotomy. What does it mean when we've already traveled a long way up when we've gotten down to this 5th day down? So let's take a look at that. Oh, before we do that, I just want to point out that where we are on the alts chart is, look where we are. This is the toppity top, the absolute top of the wick, like the complete top, right? This red line is the complete top of the highest wick in alt. By the way, this yellow is Bitcoin, just as a comparison. We're looking at the alt season, this right here. Okay, so this red line is the previous highest high. Okay. And so let's just pay attention to the fact, that we are now touching the absolute toppity top. Okay. And sometimes when you hit the absolute top of something, well, you do get a little bit of a rejection. Now, I've already mentioned to you that I think curve can reject down and maybe go sideways. And I'm saying I think the same thing can happen with this alt season here. But let's see what has happened historically. Matter of fact, let's just leave it open and let's move sideways to find another line. Okay, here we are at another line. So this line we're looking at is 5 days after breaking down through this long red line here. What happened on that 5th day down where my blue line is? Well, it was a top that started going sideways. And it went sideways and even down. Let's take a longer look at that. It actually turned into, let's do it like that. So we had a big up, similar to what we have today, and then we reached a top, which now moved into a bigger drop than we've had along the way here, maybe similar to this, but even a little bigger than this, right? And so that's one of the reasons I'm saying curve may be ready for a big drop and a little sideways action, right? So it actually, at this blue line, where we are today, right? A moment just like today, where Bitcoin dominance has been dropping and where people got really excited back then, turned out to be a top, right? That turned into just a top, stayed a top, dropped kind of hard. So see, what's happening is a lot of people are watching people talk about how we dropped below in Bitcoin dominance, telling you, oh, it's alt season is on like Donkey Kong. And so you're all buying in, or 99% of the people out there, not you, 99% out there are buying in at this top, expecting it's going to blast off from here. But just pay attention to the fact that this is a really great relation to where we're at today, because it climbed up in 3 stages, 2, 3. I mean, 3 stages up. That's a beautiful full-bodied climb right there. While this one dropped here toward the end, right? So let's go see if we can find another one of those lines. See, by doing this, guys, we're looking at reality of what really happens instead of just saying alt season, oh, all this great stuff. Okay, we're looking at the reality of what happens during these times. Okay, now these are shorter little things. They don't count as much, but still, it's helpful just to take a peek at them, right? So here we see this was a shorter run up, and a little bit after it had a dip and then a sideways action. This one's also a shorter red line, but still gives us a little information. Here on the 5th day, we're topping out. We're going to go down. We're going to go into side action. Let's go find another one of those puppy dogs. Yeah, baby. All right, now this one is not really the same thing. This isn't comparing apples to apples, because this one we're in a downtrend, not like today, but it is interesting to take a look at the 5th day down, in this case too. And we see that once again, even in this downtrend situation where we finally have a rise, we see that the 5th day down causes an up to become a down. So that still kind of adds to our story here, doesn't it? But looking at this previous one here is a little bit more realistic with what we're doing today. This one isn't as blasting off as where we're at today, but it does show up, rest, up, right? And on the 5th day down here, we see that we were at the final top and started going down, went sideways for a little bit. By the time we broke this high, where people might have bought in, getting excited about this Bitcoin dominance reversal, right? They bought in here. Well, they didn't get their money back till around here. They probably sold around here, fearing that they were completely stupid to buy in up here. And so if they did stay in, then they stayed in about here just to get a little bit more of a top here, right? So there you go. Let's see what else we got. A couple more little shenanigans here. Here we have top, then sideways. Here we have, well, this one's on a bottom one. Ooh, now this is interesting. We have something different to look at now. This is interesting. This might teach us something. Okay. Now, in this case, we have a declining channel, and we have dominance dropping. We have dominance dropping when we're busting through a bottom area. Okay? This is when dominance is exciting, my friends. This is the secret we came to talk about today. The secret we came to talk about today is, when do we get excited about dominance dropping? We get excited when price has been dropping all along and when we're near a bottom, because then that tells us that that if we had a blast up while we have dominance dropping, then we are probably now at the beginning of a powerful part of alt season. All the other charts in the past, we have already risen, and then we get the dominant signal. But what does that tell? What has that been signaling us? That has been signaling us that a top formation is happening and a sideways. Maybe it's all even over, or maybe it's sideways and up later. But now we understand how to understand this dominance chart a little better. When we have dropped 5 days below Bitcoin dominance, that is only going to be exciting when price has been dropping all the way up till this point of this breakthrough. In other words, dominance went down while price went up and broke through a ceiling. That is when dominance is exciting. Dominance being exciting today, maybe not so much. Dominance being exciting at a time like this is a secret we may have just uncovered, right? Over here, now we're talking about way back 2017. Okay, 2017, bro. You know, this is when, I mean, come on, my friends. Well, let's see what it does anyway, okay? So in this case, once again, let's see what we're looking at. So in this case, yeah, we have a nice little blast off going up here. Yeah, we had some rise here. Here we got a blast off here. Okay, so this one may be a representation that where we can look at this and say, well, this is not quite, but kind of where we are today. Kind of where we are today. It went flat. We had a real excitement here. I think ours went maybe double the amount of days or a little further. But we could, here's what people are looking at, right? People are looking at this. Back in 2017. My friends, let's talk about that in a second. But they're looking at 2017 and saying, because in 2017 this happened, that this is, now we're going to go crazy in 2025. My friends, oh Lord, have mercy on my soul. Let's just talk for a minute about why that's not the way the world works, guys. Please, moso. Oh, you're hurting me. You're just hurting me. I'm going to cry right in front of you. Okay, I'm done crying. You're a freak of the week. All right, look. Everything when it starts out blasting off more powerfully. Then over time, as market caps get bigger, the super powerful part diminishes. I've already told you in previous videos, okay, a lot of you guys have been brainwashed because you see this, then we come down and we get an equally beautiful blast up here. Equally beautiful blast up here. And so you guys, not you guys, but the 99% who are going to lose money, they're going to think that we're going to now do this and do this again. But I've already told you in my previous video, because of global net liquidity, look at my previous video. We had a pandemic scare here, which blasted us down. Global net liquidity, in other words, money printing. We printed money out the frickin' gazoo, my friends. We printed money. So we didn't get this blast off here because this is always going to match stuff back here. No. It looks like we have this blast and this matches that blast, so the next will match that blast. No. What happens in markets, if you just be realistic, is what normally should have happened is big blast here, come down, medium blast here. Here is where the top should have been. Without global net liquidity, here is where the top should have been, my friends. Okay? This, from here to here, is where the top should have been. And in the next phase, probably even less. Probably here to here in the next phase. Okay? Here to here. Right? And what do we have? We already have a here to here. I'm not going to measure that for you. But here to here, my friends, it could be the end. All you people thinking that we have to match this, my friends, can I even pull up global net liquidity? I showed you last time. I don't happen to have it here, okay, but I'll just tell you what global net liquidity looks like. Since the pandemic, we printed money out the gazoo. Global net liquidity blasted up to here, like this. And then it started coming down somewhere along the way, and then it went down, down, down. Guess what? Today it's at its lowest bounce. Bounce, bounce, lowest bounce, lowest bounce. Lowest bounce of cash in the market to be used for investing while this is reaching a top. That is why it would not be impossible at all for Bitcoin to have reached a top. Now the question is, where is alt season? Where is the alts going to go? Because Bitcoin is doing this sideways pattern, so therefore we're all saying alts are going to blast up while it does sideways pattern. Well, guess what? It's already blasting up. It's already blasting up. I've already showed you it's reaching an ultimate top here from a previous time. But let's talk about this Bitcoin dominance versus altcoin. How altcoins have to rise powerfully after Bitcoin tops. Let's talk about that for a second. When's the last time that the alt season blasted powerfully after Bitcoin topped? Well, it happened here during the money printing situation. When people were getting all this free money, we had a crazy amount of people buying altcoins because they were getting into that, what was that? Robinhood. They were getting into Robinhood. I don't know if Robinhood was crypto, but they were getting into Robinhood. They were buying everything. They were buying everything in the stock market. They were getting into crypto. They were buying everything in crypto. So what you had was all these newbies wanting to get rich quick, and they were buying altcoins like mad. And so just because you see that Bitcoin back here topped and went sideways, and then as it topped and went sideways, then alt season went completely crazy after that, up to a certain point, and then reversed. That doesn't mean that's the way it is in the future, because let's take a look at after this time. Let's take a look at after this time, at how far removed we are from one another, from Bitcoin, from the other stuff. So what I just now did is I just kind of matched up Bitcoin with alt season, and let's see what happens. Bitcoin drops, basically alts follow Bitcoin. Here we have alts rise while Bitcoin drops. So this here, Bitcoin dropping here and alts rising, that adds to what we're talking about, that the alt season can blast off while Bitcoin is is going down. Okay, but then we have alt season drops down to the bottom where Bitcoin dropped to the bottom, and then we have Bitcoin coming up, and alt does continue up for a bit. So we do have it a little bit removed from each other, right? But let's see if that continues. Let's keep on looking at this. Now, here we have Bitcoin going down, and we move up. We move up, and we have alt follows Bitcoin. Here, alt follows Bitcoin. Here, up and down, alt follows Bitcoin. Here, Bitcoin tops at the same time as alt. Alts drop at the same time as Bitcoin. Here, Bitcoin and alts drop together. Here, they follow each other to this bottom. They follow each other here. They follow each other here. They follow each other here. Here, they follow each other here. They follow each other here. Finally here, Bitcoin takes off from here. Bitcoin takes off. Bitcoin gets up ahead of altcoin. Up ahead of altcoin, stays ahead of altcoin, stays ahead of altcoin, goes way up here. Bitcoin's ahead of altcoin, right? But so eventually altcoins need to blast off to catch up with Bitcoin, right? But now let's take a look at the moves of Bitcoin with altcoin. Well, Bitcoin and altcoin here top almost at the same exact time, maybe a couple weeks apart a little bit. They match here, they match here. They crash very close together. This little dip here. The rest of the chart is matching Bitcoin. It is matching Bitcoin moment for moment. It is matching Bitcoin. This big crash here, alts match Bitcoin. This peak matches the bottom, matches the top, matches a bottom here. Then what happens? Pay close attention to this. Then what happens? The alts catch up with Bitcoin. Catch up with Bitcoin. Let me see if I could freeze this where it's at so these things stay where they're at. Let me go look at this. Basically, the alts go crazy and they catch up with Bitcoin. They're very close to Bitcoin. If it's caught up with Bitcoin, then there may not be some great and wonderful alt season. If Bitcoin is going to even out, check my last video. If this is going to be a topping formation on Bitcoin, which so far it doesn't look like a topping formation. If there's a topping formation, and if this is the top of Bitcoin, then we should get maybe a nice drop in Bitcoin, then up, then maybe one more drop, and then start declining. So far, it's holding up pretty well. So it could mean we do have more Bitcoin coming. If that's the case, then we could have more alts coming.
Likey.
Comment. Subscribe now.